Picture Christmas morning, 1970. You're kneeling on the avocado green shag carpet, knees itching from the rough fibers. You tear open a white envelope from your grandmother, and there it is, a single crisp $1 bill. You hold it up to the C7 tree lights, the paper glowing warm in the haze of your uncle's Pall Mall smoke. To a modern kid, that's barely a vending machine soda. But here's the thing, that same Christmas, that single piece of paper could buy you the world. 5 fresh comic books off the rack, a heavy die-cast Hot Wheels car with change to spare, a generic monster movie ticket, and the popcorn. $1 wasn't just money, it was freedom. For kids in 1970, allowances were measured in quarters. Earning a full dollar took weeks of chores, but when you finally held that green bill in your hand, it opened the doors to a kingdom of heavy metal, vinyl, and sugar. But that kingdom feels different in hindsight. It is easy to look back at the early 1970s through the soft focus of nostalgia and see only the aesthetic, the bell-bottoms, the muscle cars, the technicolor vibrancy. But we must anchor ourselves in the reality of the time. For the average family in 1970, that dollar represented hard, physical labor. The federal minimum wage hovered around $1.45 an hour. That greenback in your hand was 40 minutes of sweeping a shop floor, waiting tables at a diner, or tightening bolts on an assembly line. It wasn't effortless money, but when you took it to the counter, it commanded respect. It had weight. And nowhere was that weight felt more heavily than in the pages of the secular Bible of the holiday season, the Sears Wish Book. Long before the internet created instant gratification, the Christmas season began in late August or September, when that massive brick of a catalog landed on the doorstep with a heavy thud. It was over 600 pages of thin, glossy paper that smelled of ink and possibility. In 1970, if you held that dollar bill and flipped through the toy section, you weren't looking at cheap hollow plastics that would shatter by New Year's Day. You were looking at steel. Let's take that dollar and walk out into the cold, gray afternoon. You pile into the family station wagon, a massive vessel of Detroit steel that smells of leaded gasoline and cold vinyl seats. You head downtown, past the neon signs flickering to life in the winter dusk, toward the red and gold signage of Woolworth's or the vast fluorescent aisles of a Kmart. When you walk inside, the air is thick with the scent of roasting nuts from the snack counter, mixed with the ozone smell of floor buffers. You march to the toy aisle, dollar in hand. In 1970, this single bill makes you a serious customer. Standing there, staring at the pegs, you see the blister packs of Matchbox and Hot Wheels cars. These aren't the lightweight versions of later decades. These are die-cast metal, heavy in the palm, painted in spectraflame colors that gleam under the store lights. The price tag reads 59 cents. That means you can slap a shiny new muscle car on the counter, a miniature masterpiece of engineering with working suspension, and the clerk will still hand you back 41 cents in change, enough for a comic book and a candy bar. Speaking of comic books, the spinning wire rack in the corner is a portal to another world. In 1970, the price of a standard Marvel or DC comic had just ticked up from 12 cents to 15 cents. It was a controversial hike at the time, sparking outraged letters to the editors from kids across the country. Yet, with your single dollar, you could still build a library. You could grab the latest issue of The Amazing Spider-Man and an Avengers comic, losing yourself in the 4-color newsprint that left ink smudges on your thumbs, and you'd still have 70 cents left in your pocket. That is the purchasing power we have forgotten. The ability of a child's allowance to buy hours of immersive entertainment. Perhaps you aren't interested in toys or comics. Maybe you want to hear the sounds of the decade. You walk over to the music section, flipping through the bins of 45 RPM singles. The 7-inch vinyl records are slipped into crisp paper sleeves. The radio has been blasting Bridge Over Troubled Water or the Jackson 5's I'll Be There all winter. You want to own that sound. The price? Usually between 69 and 99 cents. For $1, you could take the music home. You could drop the needle on the turntable, hear that distinctive crackle and pop before the music swelled, and know that you owned a piece of the culture. This era, the very beginning of the 1970s, sat at a fascinating crossroads. It was the twilight of the durable goods mindset. When you spent your dollar on a gift, you expected it to last. A $1 Slinky was made of dark, cold metal that could tumble down the stairs with the satisfying clack, 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 not a plastic whisper. A 99-cent pair of socks from the 5 and dime was thick cotton or wool. Even the junk food felt substantial. A candy bar, a Snickers or a Hershey's, cost a dime, maybe 15 cents at a gouging newsstand, and it was a meal in itself. You could walk into a McDonald's, order a hamburger for 18 cents, a bag of fries for 12 cents, and a Coke, and walk out with a full stomach and half your dollar intact. But there was a subtle tension in the air, hidden beneath the joy of the holiday shopping rush. While the dollar was strong, the world was changing. The optimism of the post-war boom was starting to fray at the edges. If you looked closely at the parents standing in line at the department store, smoking their cigarettes and counting the cash in their wallets, you could see the worry lines. Inflation was beginning to creep up, a slow-moving tide that would soon crash over the American economy. The Made in USA stamps on the bottom of the toys were starting to compete with imports. For now, though, amidst the tinsel and the spray-on snow on the windows, the illusion held. The American dollar was king. It was a tangible, powerful certificate of exchange. A child in 1970 didn't need a bank account or a credit line to feel wealthy. They just needed a visit from the tooth fairy or a card from an aunt. That single paper bill was a ticket to the movies, a new toy, a stack of comics, or a lunch with friends. It was a time when value was physical, heavy, and understood. But as the decade turned and the calendar pages flipped toward the mid-70s, that weight would begin to lighten, dissolving into a new reality of plastic, panic, and prices that would leave this golden era of purchasing power in the dust. Fast forward 9 years. The calendar on the wall, featuring a pastoral-covered bridge scene, now reads December 1979. The warm, glowing tube warmth of the early decade has been replaced by a harsher, fluorescent reality. The shag carpet is matted down in the high-traffic areas, and the wood paneling feels darker, enclosing the room like a shrinking cage. If you reach into your pocket and pull out that same single-dollar bill, it feels physically the same. The same green ink, the same portrait of Washington, but spiritually, it is a ghost of its former self. To understand Christmas in the late 70s, you have to look outside the living room window. You have to look at the street corner, where the line for the gas station wraps around the block. The air smells of rich, unburnt hydrocarbons and frustration. The energy crisis isn't just a headline anymore. It is a daily ritual of waiting in a cold car, hoping the pumps don't run dry before you get to the nozzle. In 1970, a dollar could fill nearly half your gas tank, buying you freedom and mileage. By Christmas 1979, gas is hovering near or above the dollar per gallon mark. That single bill now barely gets you enough fuel to drive to the mall and back. This is the era of stagflation, a word that sounded as ugly as the economic reality it described. Stagnant wages meeting skyrocketing prices. The parents walking the aisles of the department stores this year aren't moving with the confident stride of 1970. They are calculating. They are stressed. The cost of living has nearly doubled in a decade. A loaf of bread that cost 24 cents is now 40 cents or more. A gallon of milk has jumped from roughly $1 to well over $1.50. The math of survival is eating into the budget for joy. Walk into a toy store in 1979, perhaps a Toys R Us that has sprung up in the suburban sprawl, replacing the downtown five and dime. The aisles are brighter, louder, and overwhelmingly plastic. The heavy die-cast metal of the past is vanishing, replaced by injection-molded polymers. The greatest symbol of this shift is the undeniable king of late 70s Christmas, the Star Wars action figure. In 1970, your 59 cents bought a heavy metal car with moving parts. In 1979, the Kenner Star Wars figures, Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, Han Solo, are 3 3/4 inches of lightweight plastic. They are cultural icons certainly, but pick one up. It feels light as a feather. And the price? They are sitting on the pegs for roughly $2 to $2.50 each. Your single-dollar bill, which once made you a king in the toy aisle, now leaves you standing there empty-handed. You can't even buy the smallest figure. You are officially priced out of the zeitgeist. The dollar has been relegated to the bargain bin. If you head to the candy counter, that dime bar is history. Candy bars have shrunk in size and swelled in price to 25 or 30 cents. Your dollar can buy you 3 chocolate bars maybe, if you catch a sale. The comic books that were 15 cents, they are now 40 cents. That library you could build in 1970 has been reduced to 2 issues, and you'll have to dig in the couch cushions for the sales tax. This erosion of value changed the texture of American life. To keep prices affordable, manufacturers began the Great Cheapening. This was the birth of the disposable era. Appliances that were once built to be repaired were now built to be replaced. Clothes shifted from cotton and wool to polyester blends that didn't breathe but kept the price tag low. The wish book was still thick, but the dreams inside were becoming more expensive and less substantial. You can see this shift in the very specific trend of the novelty gift. In the mid-70s, as the economy soured, Americans developed a strange sense of humor about their spending. This was the decade of the pet rock, a literal rock in a cardboard box that sold for $4. It was a gag, a laugh in the face of economic absurdity. But it also signaled a shift. We were no longer paying for materials or craftsmanship. We were paying for the idea of a thing. We were buying marketing. By the time the sun sets on Christmas Day, 1979, the mood has shifted from the cozy security of the start of the decade to a low-level hum of anxiety. The news on the television is talking about hostages in Iran and interest rates climbing toward the sky. The family gathering is still there, the love is still there, but the material world supporting it has thinned out. The presents under the tree are more numerous, perhaps, but they are lighter. They break easier. The 1970s taught America a hard lesson. Value is not constant. We watched the solid, heavy reliability of the post-war boom evaporate into inflation and uncertainty. We learned that a dollar is only a promise, and sometimes the world breaks that promise. As the clock ticks toward midnight on December 31st, 1979, welcoming the 1980s, the American shopper is tougher, more cynical, and holding their wallet a little tighter, knowing that the price of admission to the American dream just went up again. In the span of just 10 years, the American dollar transformed from a heavy anchor of value into a fleeting ticket for cheap goods. We entered the 1970s buying steel, wool, and brass with pocket change. We left it buying plastic, polyester, and debt. We gained an explosion of pop culture, the blockbusters, the franchises, the endless variety on the shelves, but we lost the tactile assurance that what we bought would last a lifetime. Looking back, the tragedy isn't just that things got more expensive, it's that in the rush to keep them affordable, we quietly agreed that everything, even our memories, could be disposable.